Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're decoding a shift that's literally happening right beneath our fingertips. We are officially stepping out of the era of physical cash and diving headfirst into the highly complex, incredibly fast-paced world of programmable digital currency. We're going to explore how the very nature of money is fundamentally changing, the geopolitical shockwaves this is causing around the globe, and, of course, the intense privacy debates that come right along with it. So grab your notebooks because this is a massive technological upgrade you absolutely need to understand. Let's just jump right in with a pretty wild stat. According to the latest Federal Reserve data, physical cash, actual paper bills and coins, now makes up a mere 14% of consumer payment volume in the US. 14%. Think about that for a second. The physical money that has defined commerce for centuries is rapidly fading into the background of our daily lives. To put that into perspective, out of the roughly 48 transactions the average American makes every single month, credit and debit cards absolutely dominate. We're talking nearly 2/3 of all purchases. Cash is dragging way behind at that 14% mark, with things like electronic ACH transfers filling in the rest. So our payment habits have already completely transformed into a digital-first reality. But here's the thing. Swiping a piece of plastic, that's really just the warm-up act. Because we're moving way past basic digital payments and straight into the era of what's known as programmable money. What does that actually mean? Well, it's digital currency with built-in self-executing logic. We're no longer just programming the payment network, we're programming the money itself. Usually running on smart contracts and distributed ledgers, this money has strict rules baked right into it. It literally only moves when specific, predefined conditions are met. The logic and the asset are totally inseparable.
Let's make this real. Imagine you've got a leaky roof, right? And your landlord promises to fix it. With programmable money, you could set up your rent payment so that, say, 30% goes through on the due date, but the other 70%, it gets locked down. The money's own code actually withholds it until the landlord finishes the repair. No messy escrow accounts, no going to small claims court, just self-executing logic living right inside your digital cash.
And this seamlessly connects to the Internet of Things, too. Take a smart fridge. The sensor inside realizes you're almost out of milk. Because your money is programmable, the fridge uses machine-to-machine communication to automatically fire off a conditional payment to your grocery delivery service. Bam! Milk shows up at your door. You didn't even click a button. The transaction just executed itself based on real-world triggers. Now, zooming out to the big picture, the scale of this shift is absolutely staggering. Right now, 98% of global GDP, that covers 143 countries worldwide, is actively researching or building central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. So this isn't some niche Silicon Valley experiment. This is a massive, coordinated global race by sovereign nations to basically rewrite the DNA of their national currencies into digital, programmable formats.
Which brings us to a really urgent geopolitical shockwave. While a lot of Western nations are still kind of sitting in the research and debate phase, there's a multi-CBDC platform out there called mBridge that has already quietly settled $55 billion in cross-border trade. $55 billion! It's run by the central banks of China, Hong Kong, Thailand, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. This is a fully live, functional network moving serious capital around the world completely with asking for permission.
To really grasp why mBridge is such a massive deal, you have to look at the legacy alternative, the Western-dominated SWIFT system. SWIFT relies on this super clunky chain of centralized correspondent banks. It takes anywhere from 1 to 5 days to settle funds, and it costs an average of 6.2%. It's slow and expensive. mBridge, on the other hand, uses a distributed ledger. It settles international funds in about 15 seconds. 15 seconds! And it slashes the cost down to a tiny 0.3%. It's a total game changer.
So how does it actually work? Well, in the old system, a message gets sent and the money kind of limps along separately, hopping between all those middlemen. But mBridge uses what's known as an atomic settlement flow. That means the instruction and the actual digital value, like swapping a Thai digital baht for a Chinese digital yuan, move together in one single instant transaction right between the central banks. Correspondent banks are just totally cut out of the loop.
But here is the really critical detail. Who is actually driving all this volume? Right now, China's digital yuan, the ECNY, makes up a whopping 95% of the volume on this platform. By being the first major global power to actually roll out a functional wholesale CBDC, China is laying down this incredibly efficient modern payment infrastructure. and it perfectly serves their vast network of trade partners while entirely bypassing the US dollar and Western regulators in the process.
Okay, bringing it back home from the geopolitical stage to how this impacts us personally, we absolutely have to unpack the intense domestic debate going on right now, especially when we talk about a programmable digital dollar in the US. It really boils down to this stark trade-off. Do we want unprecedented financial convenience and automation, or do we prioritize our civil liberties and privacy? On one side, you have civil liberties groups like the Cato Institute raising some very serious, valid alarms. They argue that a centralized digital currency could be a historic blow to individual liberty. The big fear is that if you replace physical, untraceable cash with a permanent digital ledger, you are suddenly putting the government squarely in the middle of every single transaction. Critics warn this could lead to absolute surveillance, or even give authorities the power to freeze your money or restrict your purchases if they disagree with your politics or habits.
But to balance that out, technical and legal scholars are pointing to some really advanced privacy-preserving designs that are actively being researched. A huge one is blind signatures. These are cryptographic protocols that literally allow a central bank to validate digital cash without ever seeing who you are or what you're buying. Advocates actually argue that if a digital dollar is built securely with tools like this, it could protect your anonymity way better than the commercial banks we use today. You know, the ones already monitoring and monetizing all your financial data.
So the real takeaway here is that balancing this digital ledger comes down to deliberate choices. Programmability doesn't automatically equal surveillance. You can absolutely design the system to anonymize the payer and the transaction. Essentially, a CBDC is only a surveillance tool if it is explicitly built to be one. But getting that right doesn't just mean writing good code, it means we need modernized anti-money laundering laws that legally allow our everyday low-risk transactions to stay totally private.
Which leaves us with one really big, provocative question to chew on. When your money is programmed, who holds the code? The global shift away from physical cash and towards programmable digital currency, it's practically inevitable at this point. But this isn't just a simple tech upgrade for faster payments. It is a battle for the fundamental architecture of trust in our society. Are we building an architecture of freedom or an architecture of control? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those big questions and stay focused.